Hi there, it's Dawn, and today I want to talk about sleep. But some mornings I am so tired because sleep can be a real challenge. It's been a challenge for me at times in my life, and I know that a lot of the people I talk to also find sleep challenging. And there's a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of apps that we can try. So I'm not going to talk so much about those things, but I did just want to talk about 3 tips. So tip number 1, make some kind of bedtime routine. And this doesn't have to be a really intense thing. It doesn't have to be something that takes a lot of work. Oftentimes when we're younger, we have a bedtime routine. As we get older, we stop having that routine. But routine is actually really helpful for our brains to know what's coming next when we don't tell it what's coming next. Sometimes people have beautiful bedtime routines, or we hear about them where people turn off their phones at 8 and then they have a bath and then they drink some warm milk and then they like do yoga, and that sounds beautiful. However, maybe that won't work for you, and that's okay. Maybe your bedtime routine is that you have a glass of water, you think of one thing that you were grateful for from that day, and then you set your alarm and go to bed. And if that seems like too much, maybe you scale it down even more a little bit. And your bedtime routine is that you put your pillows in the place that you like them, you get into bed, and you listen to a podcast. That could be your bedroom time routine. Having some kind of set of actions that we go through is going to help our brains know that sleep is coming, and it stops being such a conscious thing that we have to try to focus on. That's my first tip, is to make a routine, a simple routine that works for you. We're not aiming for the dream bedtime routine or the most perfect bedtime routine. We're just looking for a couple actions, a couple things that we can try to do consistently. My second tip is, once you're in bed, try to set your clock aside. I know that's really hard because a lot of us have our phones as our clocks, and sometimes we have our phones to either help us with our bedtime routine or they're just near us. But as much as we can, if we can not look at the clock once we go to bed, that can be really helpful. If we're having a hard time falling asleep and then we look at the clock and we see that an hour has gone by, that makes us more stressed because we're thinking about how many hours we have until morning and all the things we could have done in that hour, and then our thoughts just kind of start to spiral even more. And so if you just make a commitment that once you're in bed and go to bed, you're not looking at that clock. Maybe you put a piece of tape over the time on your phone. Maybe you put your phone on a bedside table and try to do something else while you're going to sleep. Whatever it is, if you can check the time less or not at all, that can really help us not get stressed out about when we're falling asleep. And the third tip that I want to offer is that if we're finding it really hard to sleep, that can be so difficult. And oftentimes, when we tell ourselves we need to sleep or we try really hard to fall asleep, it actually makes it harder to sleep. And so, while it's so important that we work with our counselors, our doctors to try to get our sleep on track, while we're not sleeping well, one thing that can be really helpful is to focus on rest. So you can't make yourself fall asleep, but you can choose to rest. If you're finding that you're staying awake, then just tell yourself that this is time to rest. Rest is something that we can control more easily than whether or not we fall asleep. And so, yeah, next time you are finding it really hard to fall asleep, just try to take the focus away from sleep and falling asleep to just resting, because our brain and our body needs rest too. So, those are my little tips for sleep. I know that it's a difficult time right now, and a lot of people's sleep schedules are getting kind of turned upside down. But hopefully, if we can all be gentle with ourselves and try to be really proactive about getting sleep, but at the same time, recognizing that sometimes it takes time, and the more that we can not stress about it, oftentimes the better. Thanks so much for watching. We'll talk to you again soon.
Hi everyone, thanks for watching our video. If you're in need of support, click the link below or email one of our program coordinators to get access to our Google Classroom. Within the Google Classroom, we'll be posting resources, videos, coping strategies, and other useful information to help keep your minds happy and healthy during this time.